They sue you, then you get handed over to the judge, then the officer, then you're thrown into prison, and you're stuck. Things just get complicated and messy if you don't just try to work it out. I know a couple, for example, a few years ago that was considering divorce. Their marriage had slowly deteriorated, and it was lifeless and hopeless. They agreed to go through a very messy and complicated divorce. Just all divorces are like that. At one of their first court dates, though, they met and they had an honest moment before the proceedings had started. He asked her if she really wanted to do this because it wasn't going to be fun. She was honest, said she wasn't sure. She asked him if he still wanted to do it. He said he wasn't sure either, so they stood there. Nobody said anything. And then they decided not to. They walked out. They left the judge, the lawyers behind. They knew rebuilding their marriage wasn't going to be easy. There was no guarantee it was going to work, but they knew it was worth the effort. Even our enemies, our estranged spouses, are worth the effort. They are sacred beings created by God in His image. It is a privilege and honor to be with them, to even try to work out our conflicts and disagreements. There's no guarantee we're going to be able to, but every human being is worth the try. That's what it means to believe in the sanctity of life. So that's the sixth commandment. Yeah, it outlaws murder and probably most killing, depending on your translation. But that's a pretty low bar, and it means so much more than that. It's based on the sanctity of life given to every human being. It means to respect life so much that you'd interrupt worship to reconcile with brothers and sisters and do your best to befriend enemies. That's how valuable they are as people made by God in His image. And to be sure, that's how valuable you are. And I am. It's not just other people who have been given God's image. It's you and it's me. I mean, despite our sins and mistakes, we are as valuable to God as anyone ever created, and we deserve to be treated as such. Jesus knows this too. He knows the sanctity of our lives. He knows we bear the image of God. Given how we have treated Him and each other, He has every right to ignore us forever, to treat us as His enemies. But He didn't do that. While we are terrible sinners, He came down to earth from heaven. He interrupted His act of worship to reconcile with us, to be with us, to settle with us, to be our friends. He interrupted His act of worship to work things out. He even came down to earth to die for us. He died for our sins, taking on the punishment we deserve because He knows we're worth it. We're sacred beings bearing His Father's image. We're worth His efforts. We're worth His death. Communion is a reminder of that. Communion is our chance to remember the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. The cup represents His blood, the bread, His body. In communion, we're reminded of the tragedy of Christ's death. We murdered the Christ, the perfect image bearer of God. Our sins killed Him, but He accepted His death. He died for our sins because He knew we were worth it. He knew that without the sacrifice, we'd spend eternity in hell, and we're more valuable than that. Everybody is. The young, the old, the unborn, your friends, your enemies, yourself. God created everybody with dignity. Here at Rooftop, we celebrate open communion, which basically means that anybody can participate. Anybody who identifies themselves as a follower of Christ by the historic definition of that. People who have repented of their sins, believe in Jesus as the unique Son of God, and been baptized by water and Spirit. In a second, the ushers are going to come down with the bread and the cup, and we invite you, when you're ready to come down, take a chunk of bread, dip it in the juice, and celebrate communion with us, and return to your seats, and afterwards I'll come back up and we'll continue.